Okay, welcome guys to this week's Path to Prosperity live webinar. It is being recorded and the recording goes out the next day. So as always, look for the email from Beverly that contains the recording of the previous night's webinar. Of course, we do these once a week. And she also provides other information, updates to the system, schedule updates, anything that's relevant and pertinent. Keep everybody on board. So in any case, and appreciate everybody being on Monday night's GIA team call. That was a really good one. So just a quick, oh, by the way, so now that you're live on video and unmuted, you can speak up. If you're not speaking, there's background noise like dogs barking. Go ahead and unmute yourself. You control that. So that way we can be more engaged here. So I'm going to, from time to time, reduce my my chat box here. And I want to kick off by starting off where we left off last week. So for those of you who weren't able to make last week's call, we went over the vision exercise and why it's so important. And I actually got a couple of vision statements sent to me this week, and thank you very much for doing that. The thing about a vision statement, guys, is when you're ready, willing, and able to share it, it's not just for my reading pleasure, it actually anchors me to you. So what it does is, when I understand what your vision statement is, it's pretty deep and pretty meaningful. It can't get any deeper, actually. It ties me to you. I mean, it's like it's hard to describe. It's definitely energetic, but I will do it anything and stop at nothing to help you see that vision come to fruition. So that's how I've been doing it for 2 decades. And Susan Hayes, you're probably familiar with a process similar to this, where we basically lower our heart rate, our breathing rate, lower our brainwave activity to something like delta waves, and then you start writing, and you get in what's called a writer's flow. And I've open about my beliefs, and I believe God is speaking through us when we do that. And writers will say that they'll say they weren't even, the words were just right in the pen, and then they just kept writing. So the same thing here, but the difference is there's lots of programs that teach you to start with values and start with goals, and they're all correct. There's not a one that everything is correct there. But if your vision for yourself is coming from yourself, it's generally what we call your small self, your small vision. Okay, we pale in comparison to what we're really capable of doing when we let our God direct us and drive us. Okay, universe, creator, everybody has different terminology. And what you'll see when you do it, you'll find yourself writing a statement that's much bigger than you. Most visions, think about it. The vision for America, the United States of America, would you say that was bigger than any one of those individual forefathers that came up with it? Of their own minds, they were capable of only so much. But when they got together and worked together, they were able to achieve a lot more. Okay, they had a unified vision. So same thing here. In any case, hopefully you did that. And some of you weren't here. So like Luann, I know we spoke about this yesterday. Did I send that to you? I can't remember. I don't know that I did I? Okay, I'm going to give you a Christmas present, okay? This is, and I say this a lot, and I mean it completely. Knowing what I know now and accomplishing what I've accomplished, it's not me in and of myself. It really is, it's, obviously because of you being part of this team, for example, but really me using that process has allowed me to take action way beyond anything I originally would give myself credit for. Like Susan Hayes, you know what I'm talking about? When you take action, yeah, beyond what you think you're capable of, that's when you can achieve those big visions. So it doesn't faze me anymore. I've just such an ingrained habit of mine. So I'm gonna write this down, Luann, so I don't forget. Vision statement. Okay, so in any case, I'm going to go ahead and have Beverly send everybody the goals exercise tomorrow. But the goals exercise is what's next. So here's the order of events. When you do this process correctly, and as you might imagine, the reason I'm doing it now is because it's the 17th of December. Another week we've got Christmas. Week after that we got New Year's, and a brand new year starts off, 2021. And I don't know about you, but I'm really curious to see what 21 is going to deliver. after 2020, it's like, my gosh, just never cease to be amazed at things. But I'm excited about it. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a clue, but I know that I'm prepared for it. Okay, and I want you to be prepared too. So this process will take you some time. It is absolutely worth it. So vision exercise, and you've got to give yourself a couple hours to do it. Get somewhere where it's quiet, away from all distractions, computers, phones, TVs, people, dogs, whatever. Because when you do that, the more you devote yourself to the process, the more you're going to get out of it. All right. And lots of stuff come out. Maybe you want to travel the world. Maybe you want to play the piano. Maybe you want to start a foundation. All kinds of things will come out. A lot of times it's about relationships, and of course, business is always in there too. Whatever it is, has meaning and purpose. And when we do the goals are aligned with that vision. Okay. It's the second part is the goals. So when you create the goals, you're writing the goals that the person you identified in the vision statement, which is you, what goals does that person have? So the exercise leads you through that. And I'll make sure Beverly has a document tomorrow to send out to everybody. Same exact preparation. You've got to really, devote yourself to it. I'm telling you, I've done it so many times now. I just went over one today with a new agent, Ryan Joseph is on our team from Panama City Beach. And same thing, he said he felt like he met himself for the first time. It was one of the coolest things he's ever done. And he's done a lot of practicing with different exercises to help us, be more aligned and fulfilled and inspired and enlightened. And I say the same thing. Each year I look forward to it. But in any case, the goals exercise allows you to identify the goals that match your vision statement. Okay. So if you notice right away, we've already taken a step deeper than most other programs will do, which is start with your goals, or maybe start with your values. What's interesting when you do the vision exercise is your values will come out. Okay. Stephen Covey had a great program about that I took years ago, 1989, actually. I was one of the lucky people that actually got to meet the guy in person. And he started off with values. And I used that for years, and I got more training and more development, more coaching, and created this enhanced version of it. So in any case, once you create your goals, that's step 2. Step 3 is you create what's called an actions database. And we'll do that. I tell you what I'll do. I'll go ahead and send that also. Let me just write this down. So for Beverly.
Hey, Gary.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I interject something really quick?
Absolutely. Yep.
Speaking of Stephen Covey, after I had done my vision statement, I sat down and did that exercise with you. I was directed to pick up this book along with the Bible during that process. And I've had this book before. I've gone through it years ago, probably close to 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And usually when I'm reading books like this or any type of kind of self growth books, I always make notations to it. But anyway, so it was kind of interesting getting back into it and seeing, where things have changed from the notes that I've made before. But I think that's just so totally in line with what you're talking about in bringing us back to aligning up all of our values, our principles, and then putting how those fall into our goals. And those goals are kind of rounded around all of that. And it just creates a full, complete, more balanced life and picture.
Yeah. Well, I call it alignment. When what you're doing, the actions you take every day are aligned. Basically, what happens is your plan that you execute aligns your actions through your goals to your vision statement. So the best way I can describe this, I can't remember who I mentioned this to. It might have been Luann. It might have been you yesterday. So if you ever worked on a puzzle before, where you've got to fit the puzzle pieces together to create the picture is usually on the cover of the box. So imagine me taking a box of puzzle pieces, shaking it up, dumping the puzzle pieces in front of you, and then taking the box cover away so you couldn't see it. Imagine trying to piece together the puzzle without knowing what the picture is supposed to look like. That's how most people most other people go through life. They're trying to piece things together with what they got and not really have the big picture. And Lord knows what you end up with. But if you have that picture in front of you, you can see exactly where the pieces fit together, and you can build a complete picture. That's sort of a crazy analogy for what this means, but on a much broader scale, it is what it means. And if you ever wonder how it is people are able to accomplish so much and achieve great feats, like an Oprah, or you know, what's the who's a swimmer that did 3 or 4 Olympics in a row and has like, what's that?
Phelps, Michael Phelps.
Yes, from Baltimore, Maryland. I used to live there, so I got to meet him, and I took a cheat selfie. So, in any case, he started when he was a kid, but he had a vision of him being in the Olympics, and he kept that vision very clear. So everybody I've ever met, that people that we tend to recognize, like Jack Canfield and John Maxwell, Stephen Covey, Dave Ramsey, people like that, they all do something like this, okay? It or something like it. And it really, what makes it so doable and so effective is that when you have that clear vision, even when things go wrong, you still stick with the vision. Does that make sense? Instead of being derailed, or defeated, or whatever, the vision is so powerful, it pulls you forward. And that's the real reason why we do it, is because if we don't have that and something goes wrong, we're more likely to give up or quit, which is a shame. So I'll give you a recent example. Okay, so we just launched our global investor group the week before Thanksgiving. Now, I knew in my heart some people would excel right away, and some people would not do so well in the first one. Second one would get better, and so forth and so on. And I knew in my heart that some people just weren't going to be able to continue with it. Okay, but I was okay with that because, I don't want to ever deprive anybody of the opportunity. I feel like give everybody the opportunity, let them put their best foot forward, and let the chips fall where they may. Okay. So this week I had a couple people call me and text me and saying they were going to cancel the event. They didn't feel prepared, and there was only one person registered and so forth. But there was one person who's on the call tonight who called and didn't say that. He said, I don't feel prepared. So David, you mind if I call you out a little bit? Okay.
Not at all. Not at all.
I like David's message because he didn't actually quit. He didn't say, I'm not going to do it tonight, I'm not prepared. He just said, I'm not prepared. And I said, well, there's an opening, I'll call them. And I didn't make the decision for him. He asked me, and I suggested, I said, well, you know what? Even if only one person shows up, at least you went through the exercise, the values in the exercise. And it's sort of a mindset thing. It creates the impression in your mind, your subconscious, that you are capable of doing it, you can do it, and you're going to persevere and continue on. So David, if you don't mind, would you mind chiming in to tell everybody what actually happened last night?
I had 10 people registered. 4 people showed up. 2 of them are team members. One of them was a husband and wife couple from Atlanta who own investment property in Pensacola. They have 4 properties right now they own and 2 more in escrow. They're looking to move to Pensacola, and she's a real estate agent. And at the end of the meeting, she was asking who's EXP, and she doesn't have her license hung anywhere right now.
Oh, wow.
So
how about them apples?
That worked out.
Nice.
That worked out pretty good. And I do have a little learning note for Zoom. So I had my Zoom meeting set up with the waiting room, right? You can do 2 things, either a waiting room or the passcode. I've always thought with the passcode, people got to remember the passcode. They don't. It's in the end of the link. So, but I had it set up with the waiting room. So that was great until I got going doing my thing, and a few other people apparently showed up after the fact. And I didn't know anybody was there because I got 3 screens and I'm doing a PowerPoint and I'm looking at the chat and doing all this. So when I get done an hour and a half later, I look and I see that there was 1 or 2 people in the waiting room. So now I have to kind of eat crow and send an email out. I was meant to do it today, but send an email out apologizing for anyone that showed up and saying, hey, this is what happened. It was our first time, but next week or next month, it will be the passcode so you don't get stuck hanging outside. But all in all, I thought it went pretty well. Chris was there and Teresa was there for sure.
Awesome.
Surely.
And if you didn't do it, it wouldn't have happened. So you learn, you got feedback.
Right.
Yeah. And no apology necessary. I know how I set mine up the same way, David, the first time, and it is hard to keep your eye on all those different things popping up.
Yeah. So note to self: use the passcode, not the waiting room.
I'm doing mine at 7 o'clock tonight.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. The very first one we did before Thanksgiving, there were several that I couldn't get in. I went in, I was sat in the waiting room forever and ever, and I kept jumping around trying to get in different people's webinars. And but that's why you do it. You just gotta get that first one out of the way, and then you've got your starting point, But in case, David, I just want to say thanks for letting me call you out and commend you for going ahead and going forward with it. And lo and behold, the world rewarded you with the prospect.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I had in my mind what I was going to cover in my outline, and I was frustrated because I couldn't fill in part of the content. I didn't have it, and so I was like, I told Gary, I'm like, well, I'm just not going to do that part. I'll do that part next month. And it ended up, we had such good conversation going back and forth that we didn't even get through what I had. So
yeah. Hey, Melanie's saying that you can actually, once you're in, you can disable the waiting room once you're in. Is that right? Hey, Melanie, let me see if Melanie's.
I didn't know that. Melanie needs to get promoted.
Yeah, I just promoted you, Melanie. So we're going to do everybody's live and online so we can see your mugshot. There you go. We can see your name there. So now you can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, once you're in the Zoom, if you go to you have a security function, and if you hit the security button, it'll show it'll open up a screen, and you'll see that it'll be like the second one down on the top is for mine, and it gives you a little option to disable the waiting room. You can only do it if it's your own Zoom. So if you're using somebody else's Zoom, then they make you the host, I don't think you're able to do it, but you have to be the host, I think, in your own Zoom, or you have to be yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Melanie. And by the way, Melanie, to your question, the vision exercise, the 4 parts are vision, goals, action plan. They're all integral to each other. So your question about, will the vision exercise help people vocalize their goals? Absolutely.
Okay.
So when you do the goals exercise, you actually review the vision first, and then you, of course, get in that flow and start writing and answer the question, what goals does this person have, and keep going back and refer to the vision exercise. It's an amazing tool. In the earlier days, I'd have to walk people through it literally one-on-one. And I just kept documenting it and getting it down. I was actually afraid to make it available to people because I thought if people read this, they're going to think I'm from another planet or something. But I realized that, that's silly. I mean, it's working for me. I'm just a regular person, and I feel like I have an obligation to share it with others. And so now I don't fear what's in the writing there. Some of it's kind of deep a little bit, and some people are not into praying. I get that, but that's just what I do and what works. But in case, back to your question, absolutely. So when you do the goals exercise, that vision will help pull out the goals, and they'll be way more meaningful in alignment.
Yeah, we have people that are talking about their big why, and whenever I counterweight big why, everything. So I was thinking that vision will help them, with that the concept of the big why. It takes the mystery around it. I was glad that you and David had thought the same thing. So yeah, that's good to know.
So if Beverly sends out the goals tomorrow, Then we'll have next week, the week after, actions plans. I should probably include the plans exercise in that too. The planning part is tough though. I mean, I will tell you, I do it every year, and it ends up being, it's capable of being so detailed that it's uncannily accurate, but it also takes a lot of time, and a lot of people, most of us, we don't even think we have that kind of time to even do the plan that way. We just want to get right to the action steps. But lo and behold, that's where you start to fall off the track, so to speak. So David went through this back in the summer, and I remember we got to the planning part. David, remember when it was like you realize, oh my gosh, this could take a long time. If you really did that for all your goals, you'd spend the whole year planning, you know? So, but there's a way to I help you categorize and prioritize your goals. And that way you just focus on the first one or two or three, then you can get right to the action phase, because that's where you start to go from vision to reality, you know? And I'm starting to think, guys, that planning part, I actually still do one-on-one. What I'm thinking of, so I'll have Beverly send the 3 parts out. And if any step along the way you have questions, you're just whatever, you're just not sure of something, just call me or text me. Next week, I've got time slots open through Thursday morning, I believe. And then the following week, there's no time slots, but don't worry. Just if you do have a question, just text me, call me, email me, and we'll make time. It's more important for me to help you through or get past an impasse to do it correctly. Because it's that important. I mean, I can't even begin to, I don't even know if I have the words to describe to you how important it is. Like doing the Healing House Foundation, perfect example. It's now possible because of the Global Investor Group. We got 2,472 people in our Global Investor Group now, nationwide. I'm pretty sure out of that group, we're going to be able to raise enough, contributions from net profits to get the first house, maybe more in 2021. And then now that vision becomes real. So it's not magic. It's not some kind of hocus pocus type thing. It actually makes sense when you go through it the first time. It's like, wow, I can literally do anything, and you can, you know? So, I mean, my gosh, I just saw a special about Canadian astronauts going up in space and walking on the moon. When I was a kid, there was no chance for Canadians to be in a space shuttle or going to the moon. It was all Americans until the later space shuttle project. I worked on the space shuttle project when I was in the 60s, when the Apollo program was going. You know, that was watching them walk on the moon. And some of you might remember that. Some of you are probably my age. It was just probably one of the greatest moments of my life. That's what made me want to be an astronaut. You know, and I stuck with it. I got close. I didn't get I wasn't quite bright enough to go in a space shuttle, but I got to be on 2 space shuttles. But they didn't let me up in the air because, well, I just wasn't good enough. but that's okay. If I didn't have the vision, I'd have never even gotten to NASA, you know? And that's one of the things I want to point out here is, man, allows you to really raise the bar. And this is one of the hardest concepts to grasp, because entrepreneurs tend to be our own worst critics. And if we don't accomplish what we want, we beat ourselves up. Okay. Am I right? Can I get a amen on that one? Yeah. The thing is, you get used to not achieving perfection, not achieving the big goals. But it's because what you realize is, had you not set the bar so high, you might not have strived and gotten as far as you did. You see what I'm saying? If you set the bar low where you think you are now, what you're capable of now, you're going to achieve those kind of results. If you put the bar way beyond what you think you're capable of, and you just act on faith and take action, you'll get way further than you ever would without that process. And you just get used to it. It's like it becomes like an addicting thing. I know I'm never going to achieve, every single thing completely and fully, but I'm okay with that, because I'm going to achieve way more than I would if I didn't have the process to begin with, right? So when you look back, that's when you realize, look at what we were able to do, So in any case, I'm going to briefly go over a couple more steps here, and then we can move on to some other subjects. So when you get to the actions part, and this is all in the document you're going to get for actions, it's called Actions Exercise. I just want to point out a few things here. The actions exercise is one of the hardest ones to do. because you're literally writing down specific items, like literally making individual phone calls, that level of detail. And it's going to be very tempting to want to start to plan everything and categorize it and prioritize it, all that kind of stuff. And you want to refrain from doing that. Just let the thought pass through your mind and get back to writing down the actions. So when you're writing the actions down, it's literally a brain dump. We call it an actions database. Here, I'll show you. So this is my, the beginning of my vision, okay, right?
Okay.
And it goes on to the next page and so forth. Then I've got goals, right? And that goes on to the next page, okay? And then I started writing my actions. Oops, sorry. Right there. This grows. The actions document is the only one that's literally like a living, breathing document. Throughout the year, you constantly add to it. You never cross anything off. Even when you take an action, leave it on there, because chances are you may do the same action again sometime later on. But as you go forward in the year, you'll keep adding more and more actions. It's the one thing that's the living, breathing document. You keep it with you at all times. When you first create it, I'll give you an example of what it feels like. Let's say one of your goals is to donate $1 million to Make-A-Wish Foundation. In order to do that, and you want that to be 10% of your income or net worth, whatever. In order to do that, that means you've got to have, $10 million in net worth and income. In order to do that, that means you might have to have 100 rental units paid for, okay? So if that's the case, what does that look like in terms of actual goals? Well, that might be 10 10-unit buildings. Or if you're really thinking about it, it'd be a duplex followed by a fourplex, followed by an eightplex, followed by a 16plex, followed by a 32plex. You see what I'm saying? The real pathway is more for progression equals 100 units. Well, how did you get to 32 units on that last purchase, for example? Well, you work your way backwards, 16, 8, 4, 2 to the duplex, which you can probably buy in the next quarter, okay? So then you get down to the nitty-gritty details on that duplex. Well, in order to take possession of a duplex and get the keys to the duplex, you had to do a title search to clear title. And before that, you had to get your loan approved from the lender. You had went through a title commitment process, okay? And before you did that, you did a home inspection. And before you that, you applied for the loan. And before you that, you got the property under contract. And before you did that, you searched for the property and made 3 offers. What I'm getting at is each one of those steps, you're thinking you're writing actions because that's what your mind's telling you. But the reality is each of those now opens up another door and you got 10 more things to write. So it's literally almost like a chart or a tree, the chart of a tree, like a family tree. And each time you open up a new person, you then got the parents, the grandparents, and nieces, nephews, and all that kind of stuff. Same thing here. And here's what's interesting, this, you don't have to write this part down. The process you're going through, the part of your mind that's working is the same part of your mind that controls your memory. So if you think about memory, how many of you ever tried to remember something and you struggled and 2 hours later, you remember that person's name? Anybody had that before? Like, yep. And all of a sudden, if you think about it, you start to remember something about that person, right? Where they live, where they work, how old they are. What was the shirt they were wearing the last time you saw them? You see how your memory's starting to unfold like that? It's the same function when you do your actions database. The same part of your brain is working. You're not aware of it. It's just happening for you automatically. The point is you want to keep going, keep writing, keep going, keep going, keep writing, okay? And you might come up with 8 pages of stuff. I don't know. And hold that database until we do the planning part. I'll give you the planning part, but what I'm going to suggest is before we do the planning is set up a call with me, call me, text me, whatever, so I can go over. I need to see your vision statement and your actions, your goals statement, and then we figure out how to categorize and prioritize the goals. Then we'll take one goal and we'll work it forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, and you'll have a complete plan for one specific goal that's part of your vision. That was a lot of words. Did what I just say, does that resonate with you? Does that make sense, guys?
Oh, yes, that's cool.
Yeah. So now, would you agree if you did your planning like this every year and kept it going daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, chances are you'd probably hit your goals more often than not. Yep. Barring things that come up and, let's face it, stuff happens, life changes. I mean, my whole life's changing again, all over again, deja vu. And I'm okay with it. I don't even question things anymore, so things have changed, but I'm good. If something happens during the year, by the way, a major event, go ahead and redo your vision statement. Another thing to do is this. On our team, the Global Investor Agent team, Dave was the first person to achieve one of his goals. And I don't know if you remember this, Dave, the very next thing we did was go back to your vision statement. Remember that? I think is Dave still here? He might have checked out. I can't see.
Lefty had him.
Oh, so what happens is every time you achieve a goal, make sure you go back and review your vision statement. All of a sudden you'll be like, whoa, I didn't see that before. Something else will pop up that's now like for the forefront of your mind and your vision that maybe was further back prior to you achieving that goal. So all these phenomena will occur, and it's all natural, normal stuff, just part of life. This allows you to have a process to go through it and hit your goals and achieve your realize your vision. So in any case, any questions on this stuff so far? Because I want to move on to different things, but I want to make sure we take questions and ask them now while we're talking about it, Hey, how about a show of hands? Who did their vision statement so far? Excellent. Yeah. Go ahead and if you want to send it to me. If there's anything in there that you'd prefer to not share, something personal, obviously make a photocopy and cross it out with a magic marker or something. But it really does help me help you through the process. And then anybody that's coaching with me or on a team, that's like the roadmap. And you'll be the pilot and I'll be the co-pilot, and it'll be a fun journey. So, okay, let's do this. I want to talk more about the workshops. For those of you who are not on the team, we call them workshops. If you're on the team, we call them gigs. So Doug, I know you were looking at this before. Did you and Glenn want to do a workshop, or have you put more thought into it?
Yeah, we're going to do a workshop. We did a series of workshops a couple of years ago.
Okay.
They were okay, but I didn't have the kind of roadmap you've given us. So we're going to start with your roadmap instead.
Okay. Now, was it an investor one, or was it more traditional, like owner occupant, first time owner type thing, or?
It was primarily first time home buyers.
Okay. One thing I think you'll notice that'll be different is first time home buyers, generally speaking, they might show up once, maybe twice, but once they get their home, they feel like they've satisfied their whatever it is they want to do. So it ends up being a revolving door, and you got to constantly, market it to get people in there. On the investor, we call it a class or a workshop. What happens is people will come to multiple, they'll keep coming over and over again. And so you still market and promote, but you're actually adding to and building your database. And the thing I love about doing a workshop like this is when I first did it, I didn't do it as an agent. I'm an investor too, remember, going back 35 years now. So my first workshop I did it as an agent wanting to hang around, there's an investor, to hang around other investors so I could do joint ventures with them, so I could learn from them and obviously hopefully help them too. It wasn't until later that I realized, man, I should use my license and serve these folks and get commissions out of it, okay? But the beautiful thing is when you create a group for people that have a common interest, birds of a feather flock together, right? You tend to have a greater, people stay with it longer, okay? Years and years and years. There's two groups I've been in. I don't go to them anymore because I'm not living there, but I still belong to them. And one of them's been for 23 years now. And the other one's been for about 10 years.
Wow.
Yep. And I've created my own groups. I still come across folks I knew back in 2003, the first time I did this, or 2002, that still today say, can we do that again? That was the best group I've ever had. And one of the reasons they give is it was education based. It wasn't a meat swap. We weren't going in there just to simply trade properties. We were literally going there to learn. And that was the core premise. And if you think about it, when you establish that type of an environment where it's led by learning, you automatically are held into a higher esteem in your consumers' minds, your clients' minds, because you're teaching them. Even if you never taught before, even if you never even invested before, like one of my very first students, Kelly O'Keefe, never even bought her own home before, let alone invest, and she did this every single month. It's because she had like Doug said, she had the material, and first she was nervous. I mean, we all are, but she got to the point where she was able to recite things. She also had people in her group that were willing to step up to the plate and help out the newer investors. There's so much collateral benefits to this program, guys. I mean, the doing the workshops and the gig groups, the joint ventures, the networking across state lines and regions. Vendors will want to come to you and pay you to have access to your folks, lenders, inspectors, appraisers, contractors, insurance salesmen, flooring, windows and doors, pest control, lawn care, and you can charge them to come and be part of your group. So in any case, let's see. Thanks, Doug, by the way. So let me know when you're ready. We'll do another call and we'll get you up and running. Okay. So, okay. Any other questions? And we can try to stick with the workshops for now if you want, and the global investor groups, and hammer things out. So I know, Teresa, you got yours coming up here in a couple hours, and Shirley, are you actively doing yours? Yeah. So I know you guys got a couple coming up tonight. Any questions you have? Anything you want to share before you get started? You got about 2 hours to go, it looks like.
I finally got all my slides done that I actually ended up with 20 slides. So I don't know if I'll actually get through them all or not, but it has helped. I think it's going to help me, and I'm hoping it will help me stay on track and, not go off on this, lecture tangent. So looking forward to that. And I've tried to create in every slide a question so that they can interact. So that's coming up. And then I really only had the material and the time to put together material on one property, but it happened to be a pretty good rental property. And then what I'm still a little bit confused on the whole format of doing the cash flow and figuring out the cap rate and the cash on cash return. I think I've got that down, but it kind of interlaces with the cap rate. So
yeah, they're cousins. So here's the way you can distinguish them. So most people have heard the term cap rate. A lot of people have not even heard the term cash on cash return. So when you're doing an analysis on a rental property, you first start with your gross rents coming in at the top, and then you take out your non-debt expenses, which is taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, utilities, things like that. So the non-debt expenses come out, and that leaves you with what's called your net operating income. So gross rent minus taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, utilities. Okay.
Right.
Now, then what you do is you take that net operating income and divide it by the total purchase price, the total value of the property, and that's your NOI or net operating income. So, for example, if you have a $100,000 building you're buying, and you're bringing in $20,000. No, that's not. Yeah, let's say you're bringing in $10,000 a month gross rents. Okay. And you have $4,000 in taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, repairs. That leaves you $6,000 net operating income for the month. We have to multiply that by 12 to get $60,000 for the year. Okay.
Right.
Then you divide 60,000 by 100,000, and then that's your cap rate, okay? Now, to get cash on cash return, you then subtract the debt service, which is your principal and interest portion of your mortgage payment, principal and interest. And let's
Okay.
say that comes out to $2,000 a month. That's going to leave you 4,000 net operating income on a monthly basis. Times 12 is 48,000 cash, right, in your pocket.
Right.
Well, then you take the 48,000 and divide that by what you put down on the property, and not the total purchase price, but only what you put down on the property. You know,
Okay.
deposit, and maybe you had to put on. And by the way, if you do it correctly, if you have capital expenditures,
Yeah, like the closing costs and that sort of thing.
new roof, you would, whenever you do that, you would then add that to your cost basis. So then you would redo your cash on cash return at that point. Okay. A lot of people don't do that. They just do the first one right out of the gate and assume their cash on cash return is static throughout. That's not really the case. As you do have capital expenditures or capital improvements, excuse me, you would add those to your cost basis and adjust your cash on cash return.
Okay.
So the best way to do it is just practice
Mhm.
and with some real numbers. There's in the sample of the book that I provided people, there's a case study in there. It's the one I sent in the slideshow, the 12
Mhm.
slides. So if you go online and look, and every one of you can do this, go to the silver level, go into resources, then go into marketing campaigns, grab the booklet. The very first one is the booklet campaign. The actual booklet itself has that case study, 741 Florence Avenue, I think it was. And it describes exactly how to do cash on cash return and cap rate, both on the purchase and the sale. I did it for both cases.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good. I'll practice that for a little bit before my meeting.
Okay. Well, what's interesting is most people think of cap rate when they think of rentals, but what would you say seasoned investors are more likely to be interested in, like veteran investors? It's cash on cash return.
Oh, is
Yeah.
it the cash on?
So what would be the good number that they're looking for, Gary? So if we say, oh, this is an excellent opportunity for you because it has blank cash on cash return. If you
Good
put
question.
that in blank.
So, three-part answer. Part one is cap rate. You really don't manipulate because cap rate reflects the area more than anything. So investors start off looking at cap rate to see what the area is providing. Then on individual property, they see if the cap rate for the property is in alignment with the area first.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Then they calculate the cash on cash return. Now, cap rate and cash on cash return vary by area of the country. So like San Francisco, you're lucky to have a 3% cap rate, and cash on cash return is variable because as I put down more money, more cash on a property, it affects the cash on cash return dramatically. And just the opposite is true too. So if I only put down $5,000, but I'm making $5,000 on an annual basis, cash on cash return, then I've got 100% cash on cash return. So back to the question, it does. So it's the cap rate and cash on cash return vary by area, and then cash on cash return. The most cases people want at least a 10% cash on cash return on a property minimum. Now, in some areas of the country, you can get 20% cash on cash return. And there's even other areas of the country where cap rates are really high because values are low and maybe crime's high and things like that. Well, cash on cash return can be as high as 50%, but there's more risk with those properties, So for a place like Austin or San Antonio, they're not too well. Now, Austin's got a lot pricier than San Antonio. I shouldn't say that. You would probably have better cash on cash returns around San Antonio than you would in Austin, right? Because Austin's gotten a lot more expensive.
Right.
But Melanie, if you go out to like Fredericksburg or Temple, those areas, those are great areas to pick up rental properties.
Okay.
Yep.
I've been watching Temple.
Yep.
So I'm glad that you said that. So yeah, I haven't looked at Fredericksburg yet, but yeah, excellent.
Be further. It's funny, the smaller towns, not tiny, but nothing like the towns, we call them tertiary cities or tertiary towns. That's tier 3. They're the ones that big investors generally don't pay attention to. And smaller or medium range investors love those areas because it's less competition and you get better returns, you know?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you.
Guess what, by the way, guess what foreign investors typically are drawn to? Foreign investors. What would you say they're drawn to? Primary cities, tier 1, tier 2, like say Indianapolis or, you know, Detroit, or tier 3, like, you know, what would be Lafayette, Indiana, or Fort Wayne, Indiana, or something like that. Which one do you think foreign investors are drawn to?
Tier 2.
Actually, tier 1. They love the big cities. I have no idea why. In Miami, New York, Chicago, LA, and they'll pay cash. I mean, there's zip codes in Manhattan, guys, where the bottom end is 6 million. The bottom end of the market. And they'll
I
pay
have a
cash.
question.
Yep.
So for last night's webinar, I am proud of myself. I just did a webinar of myself, but I recorded the entire webinar and I think it was fabulous. And it's just like a teaching webinar to somebody who wants to learn. I ran through numbers, I did the whole 9, and I just spoke to myself the whole time. But I was working the numbers and I don't know if I threw myself off at a certain point, because one of the examples that I did was on furnished versus non-furnished. And I pulled an example where they were doing it for $4,000 a month. So when I did the numbers, my cap rate was like 28%. And I'm like, whoa, that seems kind of crazy. So I just wasn't sure. I was like, this doesn't seem right, but I kept working it all the way to the end. But just something like that. I mean, is that common on something that's a furnished that somebody would put out versus, you know, the typical 6, 7, 8, 9% or something for something that's not?
Yeah, I've seen cap rates well over 20%, but now the differentiating factor here is you're providing furnishings. So in your calculations, furnishings will be considered assets or capital, but they're not, we call it chattel. So when you buy a property that's furnished, you would buy the physical building, and that would be the typical real estate sales agreement. Then you'd have a separate chattel agreement for the furniture, refrigerators, stoves, things like that. Well, when you calculate your cap rate, you should account for the chattel. If you're providing, you know, refrigerators, stoves, couches, and beds and dressers, you should account that in your cost basis. I think that's
what I ended up doing was, for when you first purchased the home, I did it more as an initial expense of however much to furnish it all out, and just added that into the bottom line. So you're saying it should have been more of a line item type thing versus.
Yeah, because if you think about it, an expense is usually something very small, $250 or less, and an expense doesn't generate revenue. It just corrects a maintenance item, right? But furniture, you're actually earning money from, right? Because you're making it part of the offering. You're offering this apartment that's 1,000 unfurnished and 2,000 furnished. So you're literally making money on that furniture. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's an income producing asset. Now, what's weird is lenders don't like to lend money on chattel, right? So it's kind of a weird dilemma here, because it's actually a trick question, because in your calculation, it was money out of your pocket, right? You had to buy the furniture. So you should account for that when you do your cash on cash returns. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
But it's not part of the house, but you took money to buy the furniture. So technically it's a capital outlay. It's just depreciated separately. It's depreciated over 7 years, in fact, versus 27 and a half for the house. So that's the only reason why, in fact, because typically over time, that furniture is going to will lose value. Unlike a building that goes up in value, furniture, cars, refrigerators, stoves, they truly do depreciate. It's not a phantom write-off. It's an actual write-off, you know? So that was a great question, by the way. Yeah. Now you're thinking like a Lincoln. Hey, by the way, congratulations for doing that, Target. It's just like I said before. I know Teresa, your first one, I think you had, was it one person or no people? I think one person.
Besides you, I think I had one other group member, you know, global investor
Mhm.
agent group. And then I had my vendor, because I brought a vendor on board on that first one.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like Susan said, you go through the exercise.
Mhm.
And here's another reason why Targan touched on this. Always record your workshops, guys. If you're
Right.
doing a workshop as a regular student, or you're doing a gig as a team member, always record them. And it's not just because you'll learn from that, you'll learn from the experience and watch yourself, critique yourself, and compare it to other students' recordings. But that becomes an asset to you later on. You can take little chunks of that. You can go in there in edit mode and cut out pieces of it. Like Targan, you doing that exercise, you can cut that piece off, do a little YouTube video on it, put it on YouTube, load it to Facebook, load it to Instagram, load it to LinkedIn, send it to your database and email. Say, guys, I just want to show you in a video how you actually calculate cash on cash return.
Mhm.
So that becomes an asset to you can use later on in your marketing and advertising. So what ends up happening, you'll have a whole database of recordings. So always use me for all I'm worth. I mean, I've never claimed to be an expert in anything, but over the years, I've fortunately made I was always making one more good decision than bad decisions, I guess, to keep myself ahead of the curve. But one of the things I did is I started recording from day one, and now we've got nearly 300 webinar recordings on our database. Every one of you has access to it. It's I think the second tab on the resources that says previously recorded webinars or something. That's a lot. There are hundreds of hours of recordings. And then on YouTube, I've got, probably close to 200 videos out there. It didn't happen overnight, but it did happen over the last, 5 or 6 years or something. And it goes fast. So the best time to start is now. Just record everything. You can always go back and take chunks of it. Also, students who make comments when you're doing your workshops, or they give you a compliment, right? That you can use that. Take that little snippet and that little, hey, Melanie, I just want to thank you for doing this live workshop. Now I feel comfortable calculating cash on cash return. I can't wait for the next workshop. And what do? You put it out there on your website, on Facebook, on YouTube, everything else. You see what I'm saying, guys?
That's
I have
cool.
a question.
Yep.
On Zoom, I was talking to an agent on Saturday. I was talking to Casey and I recorded it. So I could go back. But when I went to do a Zoom today, it said my cloud was 95% full.
Oh,
What the heck?
that doesn't sound right.
I know.
Yeah.
So I went in because I was trying to record. I deleted it so I could record what I was doing earlier today. But I was like, what in the world? I don't, because I pay the $15 a month. I should have
Oh,
storage.
but you should have more than that. You know what you can do? You know what I do with mine? When I do like podcast interviews, instead of saving them to the cloud like the webinars, I save those to my desktop for 2 reasons. When you do a Zoom recording and you save it to your desktop, it actually saves it in 2 tracks. You're on one track and the other track is the other person on the other end. Yep. So if there's a dog barking on their track, you can edit that out and your track's still intact. So you still had that flow,
Okay.
The other thing too is, and it's not chewing up your cloud space.
Right. Well, I'll put a Dropbox then.
There you
after
go. Yep.
Yeah.
Good
Okay.
idea. Yep. So, okay, guys, good questions tonight. Augustine, you're being kind of quiet there, buddy. Maybe might be watching football. I don't know. So hey, about Archie, Roger, and Sam, you guys have any questions?
No, I don't have any question, Gary. I'm
Okay.
good.
Hey, how did you get to make the cash offer?
Oh, it's a very interesting story.
Okay.
I can share it with the group. Maybe people get advantage or can learn something from it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's a learning exercise. Yep.
All right, let me talk. All right.
Sam.
hi, Melanie. I saw you.
Yeah, I saw you turn like, is that him? Awesome. Good to see
I
you.
saw your name that time. I see Melanie.
Yeah.
I know this name. She's pretty clear, but how is that? Anyhow, how are you doing?
Good, good, good to see you.
Good
All
to
right.
see you too.
Say hi.
Okay, I want to share a story like make me a dream for 2 nights. So what's happened is someone called me that willing to buy a property in Austin with a price between $3 million to $4 million and cash. So wow, that's awesome. And they are from Florida. And he said he and his friend, he's a doctor, he willing to work in the medical center. And they want to both of them buy properties on the same neighborhood, which was wow, that's awesome. $6 million.
Yeah.
There you go. In 2 weeks, because they want to do the closing during before Christmas time. So he said we are traveling right now overseas, and we're gonna back supposed to be Saturday, and one of them gonna be in Austin, so he can go with me to tour those properties and get the deal done. So all of a sudden he called me Saturday morning, and he said, "Oh, unfortunately, I will not be able to fly to Austin." And I said, "What's wrong? Everything okay?" He said, "No, they're holding us in the airport in Tel Aviv, and they don't allow us to travel to US due to COVID." I said, "Huh, interesting. Okay." And they delay our flight, and we already lost it. And so my wallet been stolen, and I
Oh.
don't have money to buy another
Oh.
ticket. I said, "What? What you talking about?" And he said, "I'm flying with my wife." I said, "Okay, so what about your wife?" So, "Oh, my wife don't carry money with her." "Okay, fine. But I need your help." I said, "How can I help you?" He said, "I need $1,400 to buy a ticket to come to Austin." I said, "What? That's something simple." "Yeah, I know you are my agent in Austin. I want to buy $3 million property." I said, "Okay, that's nice. No problem. How can I send it to you?" He said, "Send it through an office in the Walmart to Tel Aviv." I said, "What? Tel Aviv? Okay, fine. Send me your passport." So he sent me a copy of his passport. I was trying to look to the passport. It's not look a real passport. And I started Googling the name of the person on the passport. Nothing came up. I called first 311 to verify that person. They said, "We cannot help you." I tried another search, paid money to search for that person. I find out that person is not real person.
Right.
It was a scam trying to get money off me.
Yeah.
And I spent 2 days working on everything. Sent them, they said, "We like it, it's good." Prepare all the documents. I called Gary in the morning. I prepared the contract, but it was good practice for me.
Yeah.
You actually do get a $3 million, $6 million buyer, then you'll be ready.
Right.
That's right.
They spent 2 days preparing, and it was good exercise for me. In 2 days, I said, "Okay, even though it was a scam, but I appreciate them. I did a good deal
Yeah.
to make a good progress in my life, on my career."
Yes.
So yeah, Gary, unfortunately, that deal didn't work.
Okay. Well, don't worry. There's an old saying, the bus will be around again tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
With real buyers.
Yeah. Don't let that knock you off your horse, because you'd be
No.
amazed at the number of times this kind of stuff happens. I mean,
Yes.
we're vulnerable because we're in service to others, right?
Oh yeah, of
We
course.
advertise ourselves. I mean, and we're like sitting targets.
Mm-hmm.
So you did the right thing, you know. Hey, Susan, how are things going up in Lynchburg? Let's see if Susan's there. Susan's got a lot of things under contract lately.
Nice.
Hey, Susan, if you can hear me, you have to unmute yourself. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. And you guys, I look so terrible because I'm exhausted, so I didn't get myself on screen. Things
right.
are going well. I just have been working an awful lot and honestly disappointing myself that I'm not being more productive with my time. So it's my struggle these days. But just keep on pushing along and working on things.
Well, I tell you what, I appreciate you saying that because I think you have like 5 active transactions right now.
I actually have, I think, 11.
Woo!
I had an investor, I had some kids that I sold a house to when I first got started for 17,000, and his sister just decided to jump on board with him. So now we had 800,000 to spend, and then that will just be going more and more. So there was just a gift from the Lord. So we got a bunch of stuff under contract last week for like 31, like kind 31 exchange. Whatever it is. Yeah. And then that will just be the beginning. So that's just such a big blessing.
Wow. That is awesome.
Yeah. I'm grateful.
What only thing I can say is, well, why don't you have 12?
Because they're just starting. But Gary, honestly, I've been working with investors too, and I'm doing like 26,000, 52,000, and I'm thinking, am I doing the right thing? Because it's a lot of time for like a, tiny little commissions, and just hoping that will turn around into more transactions.
Yeah, what you're going through, a lot of agents do that. I did too, actually. When I first started off, I'm like, holy mackerel, I'm getting these little $2,000 commissions and 1,000 and 3,000. And I finally realized the better investors, as I grew and developed, and I realized when I worked with the dentist, they bought better properties. They generally were well qualified. They were able to get loans, and they were also, their mindset was of a business person. They were pulling the trigger faster, right? They didn't hesitate. So I started my marketing geared towards those people. Airline pilots, teachers, oddly enough, dentists, a lot of engineers, things like that. They were typically more business-minded and professional, and they bought better properties. So I was going to tell you in the beginning, please set up a call. We haven't had a call for a couple of weeks, and I need to get you through vision, goals, action, because you did the vision statement. I know that. But part of the goal setting will be identify your target audience. This is one of the critical things you do in this business. So, I mean, Melanie Abraham's a perfect example. She's in leadership position, and she'll tell you, you want to identify your audience. Who is it you're looking to serve? And then your marketing will match the audience. Actually, everybody write this down. We call it the marketing triangle. Each corner of the triangle has an M, okay? And the first M stands for your market, the people you're serving, your market. The second M and the second corner stands for medium. How are you communicating with them? You're using Facebook, LinkedIn, texting, phone call, email, whatever the medium is, okay? Medium of communication. And the third part is the message. So you always start by identifying your target market. So, because if you don't do that, you're at the whim of the market. Whoever calls you gets your business, right? Gets your time. So if you target the audience, then you can craft the message that matches the market. Does that make sense? So you would speak to dentists differently than you would speak with people buying little cheap, crappy properties. And then the medium, that's the part you figure out, what are they more likely to respond to? Well, I'm going to tell you, it's probably texting. In my experience, and I've tried everything with thousands and thousands of clients, and statistically, nothing ever compared with texting. Just straight out, I mean, individual one-on-one texting, not like group texting. And I still do that today. I send out about 40 texts a day, individual.
So Gary, was that across the board, all ages, demographics, when you were referring to texting?
I wouldn't say across the board. I'd say statistically it was the most productive medium communication.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I would also tell you that if you take your market, and your market happens to be people in their 20s, they're going to be they're responding to something differently than like my mom's in her 80s. Well, she's all over Facebook, you know, and probably, you know, most people in the, you know, middle age or beyond are going to be more like Facebook type people. Phone calls work with people in their age. They just want to talk on the phone, right? But texting, they're not into texting. My uncle won't text. My mom won't text. They just are like, they call it, would you please stop that crap and pick up the phone and call me? That's
That's cute.
But across the board, I would say, Susan, statistically, overall texting's been the most productive. But I would definitely look at the audience and figure out what medium should be for that audience. And there's lots of data on that too. But so Susan, let's definitely have a call, even if it's over the holidays. And I just want to help you, because we've talked about this before, maybe not in this degree. And I appreciate you bringing the question up, and I appreciate you being candid about it. Because I've got a student up in Pittsburgh right now, and I trained her 10 years ago. She's hit her stride. She's got like 9 closings in December, and as she showed me her board, and sure enough, about 6 of them were the little, you know, 30,000, 40,000 stuff. And there's markets in the country where you can still do that. You can still get properties dirt cheap like that. And if you're in that market, then you definitely have to target your audience and use the right market, the message in the right medium. So I'm pretty sure in Lynchburg, you've got a lot of those, they're like garden apartment type things for students, like 12 apartments in a cluster, right? Those are generally going to be more expensive, right?
We don't really have any of those available to buy and sell.
But I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to approach those owners directly. Yep.
Gary, also, can you resend me the letter that you wrote way back about asking people if they want to sell their property? How you worded that? Can you resend that?
Yeah, it's actually, if you go to the marketing campaigns tab on Silver Level, you know, the resource section, go to the letter campaign.
Okay.
And the actual Word document's in there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And maybe, real quick, I'll tell you a quick story, then we'll get going here, guys. So I've been reconnecting with some of my older clients from years past when I was teaching investors a lot, because I'm looking at investing back in Pittsburgh again, doing some residential assisted living. So strangest thing, my lifelong attorney and one of my best friends had passed away right before Thanksgiving. And the 2 days before the funeral, I went back up there and I pulled out an old flyer I did for, his name's Joe Chwansky, for a $1.3 million house he was flipping. I was the agent, he was my student, and he flipped it. And I was thinking, wonder what old Joe's doing. We hadn't spoken to each other for years, not anything negative, but we just kind of drifted apart. You know, the next day, the day before the funeral, he called me and he said, Gary, you're not going to believe this. I was looking for something and saw your number. I'm thinking, wonder what old Gary's doing. And I said, Joe, you're not going to believe this. The same thing happened to me yesterday too. So we're now connecting. And long story short, we're at a dinner with some other folks, and I was asking about all the properties he bought, because he kept buying bigger and bigger properties. And I said, what happened to the one on Broad Street in Bellevue? Big, giant, beautiful building. And he said, you know, funny thing, I was going to sell it, but I had no intention of selling it. And here's the lesson for everyone. An agent called him out of the blue and said, I have a client coming in from out of town who wants to look at your building. He said, it's not even for sale. It's a great building. I don't have any intention to sell it. The guy called next day. He said, look, he really wants to just see one apartment just to see what it's like in Bellevue. He's looking at Bellevue. And Joe said, okay, sure. The next day, the agent calls back and says, you know, I got an offer for you. It's a cash offer. And Joe said, oh, I'm not going to sell it. He said, well, I'll send you the offer. Joe sold the building. The agent did exactly what I teach people is, don't pay attention to the MLS and LoopNet and CoStar. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Don't make that your only source of inventory. You be the creator of the inventory. You got to reach one, especially in the markets like it is today, guys. Man, you got to roll up your sleeves, put on your work boots, and you got to approach these people directly. Even if it's not for sale, just approach them. And you never know where it's going to turn up. So we use court data to figure out who's more likely to be interested in selling. They're evicting people, they're going through divorce, probate, bankruptcy, foreclosure, what have you. And we contact them with that letter, Susan, and then we skip trace the phone number to call them up as a follow-up phone call. And that's the kind of stuff you got to do. I mean, Doug will tell you the same. I mean, both of you and I have been in the business for a long time. Would you agree when their demand's way bigger than supply, the market's screaming, we need inventory, we need listings. So we have to be the ones to go get it, right? And then all the other agents call us. It's hard work. I'm not going to kid you guys. It's not hard. And Luann, same thing with our own investments. This is what we do to get our own investments. You know, we got to go under the radar screen, turn over those stones, and dig for those worms, because most agents won't do it. They won't do it, and you got to do what other people won't do. And this is how you're gonna not just survive but thrive. And we, by the way, that technique, we started doing that ourselves to get our own properties. We didn't do it for listings. We get it for our own properties. And I realized, well, wait a second, I'm not buying everything. I should at least list it and try to get a commission. And it's a lot better when you got the listings and everybody's calling you. Yep. So, hey, Susan, thanks for that question. That was a great question. So, hey guys, it's about 8:15. Does anybody have any more questions? You guys want to go ahead and call it wraps for a day, or? Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
listen, that was the last official webinar for the year. We'll start again on Monday, January 4th with the regular weekly sessions. In the meantime, when you're doing your vision exercise and goals and actions, please don't stop if you get stuck on something. Just call me, text me, email. I don't mind. I'd rather help you and keep you moving forward than have you kind of revert back to your old habits, because it's too easy to happen and life's too precious, you know? So, and by the way, normally I don't give those things like this, particularly the vision exercise. I mean, that's stuff. Before I was had a team, I would do these 3-day events and people would pay $25,000 for that, you know?
Wow.
Yep. So just, I'm glad to do it. It's my gift. I know what it meant to me. I've seen it do wonders for other people, and I hope it does the same for you, you know? And I'm glad to be part of the process. So Merry Christmas. God bless you and your families, and stay in touch over the holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Oh,
Merry
hey,
Christmas.
Trish, how you
Bye.
doing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna hit the recording.